The art of not caring what others think. You have spent too many years living inside other people's opinions. Too many years shrinking yourself, softening your voice, and letting fear of judgment dictate your decisions. Today, that ends. This audiobook is your blueprint for emotional freedom. A step-by-step system to detach from external validation, reclaim your power, and build the kind of inner strength that cannot be influenced, manipulated, or controlled. By the end of this, you will think differently, act differently, and walk through the world with a level of self-respect that no one can take from you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop letting people rent space in your mind. You don't realize how much power you've given away. You don't realize how many hours, days, even years of your life have been shaped by the imagined opinions of people who don't think about you, don't care about you, and don't even remember half the things you're worried about. But today, you're going to see it clearly. Today, you're going to see how much mental real estate you've been giving away for free. And today, you're going to take it back. Here's the truth most people never hear. Most of your anxiety isn't coming from what people think. It's coming from what you think they think. That distinction matters. That's the key. You're not afraid of judgment. You're afraid of your imagination's version of judgment. You've created a cast of invisible critics who follow you everywhere you go. Into your job. Into your friendships. Into your dreams. You've allowed voices that don't exist to override the only voice that should matter. Your own. But here's the reality you've been avoiding. Their opinion lives in their head, not in your life. Repeat it. Burn it into your mental walls. Let it become the foundation of this new version of you. Their opinion lives in their head, not in your life. Let's break down how you ended up here. Let's talk about the mental habit loop that keeps you trapped. It starts with a trigger. A glance from someone. A comment online. A coworker's tone. A moment of silence that your brain interprets as judgment. Then comes the spin. You replay it. You dissect it. You analyze it from every angle. You convince yourself it means something about you. And once the spin starts, the loop follows. You modify your behavior. You tone yourself down. You shrink your presence. You avoid risks. You act safe. Not because you wanted to, but because you didn't want to trigger another moment of imagined judgment. This loop has been dictating your life. This loop has been controlling your decisions. This loop has been writing your story. But here's the truth. Here's the part you need to hear with absolute clarity. Judgment is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You can't stop people from forming opinions. But you can stop giving those opinions a place to live. Because right now, what you've been doing is this. You've been handing out keys to your mind like a landlord who forgot they own the building. You've let strangers move in. You've let critics decorate the walls. You've let insecurity rearrange the furniture. You've let fear determine the rent. But you don't need to do that anymore. You have a choice. And that's the key. You can choose who gets access to your inner world. You can choose who stays. You can choose who goes. It starts with awareness. It starts with noticing when you're thinking for someone else. Because that's what you've been doing. You've been thinking on behalf of imaginary critics. You've been generating negative opinions that aren't even real. You've been projecting judgments that no one actually made. Let me give you real examples. You post something on social media. Then you delete it. Why? Because you think someone might think it's cringe. But who? Name them. Tell me who exactly. You can't. Because they don't exist. You avoid speaking up in a meeting. Why? Because you think someone will judge you. But who? You don't know. Because it's a fear projection, not a fact. You change your outfit. You change your opinion. You change your choices. Not because you wanted to, but because you imagined a negative reaction that never happened. You see how much of your life has been shaped by ghosts. And here's the craziest part. Even if people do judge you, so what? Their opinion lives in their head, not in your life. A judgment only becomes real when you accept it. An insult only becomes truth when you agree with it. A critic only becomes powerful when you give them the microphone. So here's what happens next. You start practicing mental evictions. Yes, actual evictions. Because your mind is a home. And that home needs boundaries. It needs rules. It needs protection. A mental eviction is simple. It's the moment you notice a thought that doesn't belong. And you kick it out. Someone's imagined judgment shows up. Evict it. A fear of what they might say? Evict it. A voice telling you you're not enough? Evict it. You don't negotiate with it. You don't debate it. You don't give it a tour. You don't offer it tea. You open the door. You show it the exit. And you lock the door behind it. Because your mind is not free real estate. Your energy is not free currency. Your confidence is not free access. You get to choose who stays. Here's how you build this habit. Step 1, awareness. Catch the thought. Catch the moment. Catch the pattern. Ask yourself, whose voice is this? Does it belong here? Step 2, interrupt. Say the phrase out loud if you must. Their opinion lives in their head, not in my life. This stops the loop. This breaks the pattern. This brings you back to reality. Step 3, replace. Insert a thought rooted in your values, not their opinions. Use phrases like, I choose my standards. I choose my path. I choose my identity. You're not just evicting, you're rebuilding. Do this daily. Do this deliberately. Do this until it becomes second nature. Because this is the work. This is the discipline. This is how you build a mind that belongs to you again. You may think this is small. You may think this is simple. But this is the foundation of your freedom. This is the root of confidence. This is the beginning of emotional independence. Every time you stop a thought that doesn't belong, you reclaim power. Every time you refuse to internalize someone else's projection, you grow stronger. Every time you choose your own voice over the imaginary voices of others, you build identity. And slowly you become someone new. Someone grounded. Someone self-directed. Someone who acts without waiting for permission. Someone who moves without fear of criticism. Someone who finally understands that mental real estate is sacred. That's the transformation beginning right now. That's the key. That's the moment everything shifts. And before we move on, I want you to say it one more time. Their opinion lives in their head, not in my life. You reclaim your mental space by repeating this truth until it becomes fact. You reclaim your power by practicing mental eviction until it becomes instinct. You reclaim your identity by refusing to let strangers, critics, and insecurities live inside your mind rent-free. You took the first step. You confronted the loop. You learned how to break it. And now it's time to go deeper. Because once you clear your mental space, you must understand the addiction that filled it in the first place. You mastered your fear. Now let's talk about the true drug of your life. Chapter 2, Validation is a drug, and you're quitting today. Validation is a drug, and you've been using it for years without even realizing it. You've been hooked on approval, addicted to attention, dependent on recognition. You've been chasing the high of being liked, noticed, accepted, and applauded. And like every drug, it gives you a momentary hit, just enough to keep you coming back, just enough to keep you dependent. But today, you're going to confront that addiction. Today, you're going to see it with brutal clarity. Today, you're going to quit. Here's the truth you've been avoiding. External validation rewires your mind. It changes how you show up. It changes how you act. It changes how you see yourself. This isn't harmless. This isn't neutral. This is identity-level damage. And you need to hear this. The dopamine fades. The dependency stays. Break it now. Say it again. The dopamine fades. The dependency stays. Break it now. Let's break down exactly why validation works like a drug. When you get approval, likes, compliments, praise, attention, you get a dopamine spike. A small hit. A little rush. It feels good. It feels affirming. It feels like proof that you're enough. But dopamine is temporary. It's short-lived. It disappears quickly. And when it fades, what happens? You feel empty. You feel restless. You feel anxious. You start craving the next hit. You refresh the screen. You check your messages. You wait for responses. You adjust your behavior to keep the approval coming. You've trained your brain to depend on other people for your sense of worth. Not because you're weak. Not because you're broken. But because you've been conditioned. And conditioning is powerful. But here's the hard truth. It's not about weakness, it's about discipline. Discipline to detach. Discipline to stand alone. Discipline to build identity from the inside out. Let me show you how deep this addiction runs. Think about the last time you posted something online. You didn't just post it. You posted it, then you waited. You checked. And checked again. You watched the likes. You watched the views. You watched the comments. You measured your worth by numbers on a screen. You allowed strangers to determine how you should feel about yourself. That's addiction. Think about the last time you were at work. You didn't share your idea until you knew someone else would approve. You didn't ask for what you wanted until you sensed it was safe. You didn't set your boundary because you didn't want to be too much. You rewrote your behavior to be likable instead of honest. That's dependency. Think about your relationships. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How many times have you bent your boundaries just to keep someone happy? How many times have you stayed silent instead of standing firm? You traded your integrity for acceptance. That's addiction in its purest form. You need to understand something. This addiction has a cost. A silent cost. A long-term cost. Every time you chase validation, you weaken your identity. Every time you bend your boundaries, you fracture your self-respect. Every time you choose approval over authenticity, you lose a little bit of yourself. And soon, you become someone you don't recognize. Someone who acts for others instead of themselves. Someone who performs instead of lives. Someone who's terrified of disappointing people who don't even think about them. But you have a choice. That's the key. You can break this cycle. You break it by understanding what's actually happening inside you. When you seek validation, your brain begins to rely on external signals to determine your worth. You stop asking, do I like this? And you start asking, will they like this? You stop asking, is this right for me? And you start asking, will they approve? You stop asking, who am I? And you start asking, who do they need me to be so they'll accept me? That's how people lose themselves. Not in one moment, but in 1,000 small compromises. So how do you quit? How do you detox from validation? How do you break free? You use discipline. Daily. Deliberately. Non-negotiably. Let me give you the 3-step system. Step 1. Starve the addiction. You stop the source. You limit the inflow. You cut the pipeline. For the next 7 days, you do this. Stop refreshing. Stop checking for reactions. Stop asking for reassurance. Stop explaining your decisions to get approval. Every time you resist the urge, you weaken the dependency. Every time you pause, you reclaim your brain. Every time you hold firm, you build self-respect. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You don't need their validation to act. This week is about starving the addiction at its root. Step 2. Build internal evidence. You cannot remove external validation without replacing it. You must create internal validation through action, discipline, and consistency. You build internal evidence through daily micro-wins. Wake up early. Finish a task. Keep your promise. Follow your plan. Every small win becomes internal proof. I can trust myself. I follow through. I don't rely on external noise. Because identity isn't built through approval. Identity is built through evidence. Evidence earned by you. For you. Step 3. Practice self-approval on purpose. This is the hardest step. This is the step most people never do. This is the step that rewires your entire nervous system. Every day, do one thing without telling anyone. One action where no one sees. No one validates. No one praises. This creates a deep internal shift. It teaches your brain. I act because it aligns with who I am, not because someone is watching. That's discipline. That's power. That's sovereignty. Now listen carefully. Breaking a validation addiction isn't instant. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. But it's possible. And not only possible, inevitable if you choose it. Every day you resist the urge, you regain identity. Every day you act without applause, you regain freedom. Every day you choose internal over external, you regain your life. And you need to remember this phrase when the urge returns. The dopamine fades. The dependency stays. Break it now. That's your anchor. That's your reminder. That's your weapon. Because you're not quitting approval. You're quitting addiction. You're quitting dependency. You're quitting the version of yourself that was shaped by fear instead of discipline. You're building someone real. Someone strong. Someone self-governed. Someone who acts from identity, not insecurity. This is the transformation. This is the turning point. This is the chapter where you take back your autonomy. You've starved the addiction. You've built new evidence. You've learned to validate yourself. And now it's time to build something even stronger. A self-concept that cannot be influenced, manipulated, or shaken. You've started the detox. Now, you're going to rebuild the foundation.